I want to share something that's going to be frustrating, counterintuitive, and to be honest with you, just easy for me to say. I think money is the worst thing that can happen to an early stage business. I think seed capital, early stage investments, all create artificial environments that don't really let you see what's working in a business. And so if you're thinking to yourself like, oh, I can't start my business, I don't have money, or I need to go get money to start my business, I think you're wrong. As a matter of fact, I own an incubator. Every Friday, me and 30 to 40 people meet for 90 minutes and talk about all the business opportunities on the horizon, which ones we're going to seize, what businesses we're going to build, what businesses we're going to buy. The core ethos of the incubator is we never start a business that's going to cost more than about 10 grand. By the way, I think 10 grand's a lot. I think you can start most businesses, you can prove concept with a couple $1,000s, depending on the business, obviously. If there's like heavy equipment or infrastructure or something, we're going to set those aside for just a moment. But most service-based businesses can be started for next to nothing. I think it's better. I actually think you end up with a better business. Every business I've ever seen start with seed capital tends to rely on the seed capital in a way that makes the business artificial in terms of the way that it functions. I'll tell you why I think that. When you start a business from the ground up, when you start a business organically, what it forces you to do is build every facet of the business in a way that allows it to self-sustain. So, for example, if we were to start a service-based business together, let's say you and I start a window washing business. The very first thing we need to do before we do anything else is go get customers. Until we get customers, we don't do anything because we don't have any money. Now, if you and I started a window washing business, we had a few $1,000s, what we do? Maybe we'd say, oh, let's build a website. Let's start advertising. Let's create a logo. Let's do a brand package. Let's hire this agency. We can't do any of that because we don't have any money. So what do? We start knocking on doors. We start calling ourselves. We start putting up flyers at the local Starbucks bulletin board. The things that are available and accessible to us without any money. Now, here's why this is so important. Because when we begin doing those things, we start learning lessons. And those lessons are more or less free, right? We learn what messaging resonates with people, what to say, what not to say, what questions people ask, what objections they might have, what competitors are in their market, what price people say no to, what price people say yes to. These are all lessons that had we have money, let's say we started with money and we started advertising, we would have learned the expensive way. But we learned all those lessons the easy, cheap, free way, right? And when I say easy, I'm using air quotes because I realize that we're putting a lot of effort into it, but it's organic, it's ground up, it's grassroots. And when we learn those lessons and we capture our client, guess what happens? Now we have to figure out how to fulfill. But how do we fulfill? We fulfill in a way that is consistent with the client that we capture. So if we get a client that let's say has a 4-story building and now we need to start washing the windows that are 4 stories up, we probably need a telescoping rod, but we didn't necessarily price the job for the telescoping rod. And so now we realize like, oh goodness, the amount of money that we have and the amount of money that we need to do this job are inconsistent with each other, and we should be charging more money for high windows. Where if you started with a whole bunch of seed capital, you go start buying everything that you think you need only to find out that you get out on the job and you don't have anything that you need, and there's a bunch of equipment that you need that you don't have. Every step teaches you what the subsequent step should look like. And the mistakes that you make are way less expensive than they'll be if you start with the money. The problem with starting with money is you make decisions from the frame of having money, and that becomes artificial. Every decision that you make from the frame of having money is an artificial decision that the business didn't empower itself. When you build a business from the ground up, everything from the customer acquisition to the fulfillment to the service to the retention to the ascension, etc., all of those things are built in a way that allow you to create the business in a manner that self-sustains. The business feeds itself. The marketing feeds the customer acquisition. The customer acquisition feeds the customer service. The customer service feeds the customer retention. The customer retention feeds the ascension, and the ascension feeds operations, and so on and so forth. And it becomes this flywheel. And then as you grow the business in an organic way, and you start to see what levers really work. The other issue that you have when you have money is you are artificially inseminate without realizing that you're doing it. So let's say that we spent money on advertising and it actually worked. Now you're like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I just advertise, I get customers, and the whole rest of my business works. Well, in the event that A, the advertising dollars run out, or that advertising mechanism stops working, let's say a great big competitor enters the space and starts running Google ads and your cost per click doubles or triples, which I've seen happen all the time. What happens to your business? The whole thing falls apart because you were artificially supported by a financial arbitrage opportunity that no longer exists. Whereas if you have a grassroots business that was built from the ground up, you now know, oh, there's 50 other places that I can go to get those customers because I started from the grassroots. I didn't start with money. So I think seed capital is the worst thing that can happen for a business. I don't think anybody needs an investment of any amount as long as you're in a service-based business. And by the way, start with service. If you don't know where to start with service. Start with something boring like window washing. Put yourself in a position to learn iterative improvement and learn the assembly line that is a business before you start building things that are massive. There's no reason to do that. It's a meta understanding. So money's not stopping you. Get out right now today and start your window washing business. And I realize that's uninspiring. That's why I say it. You need to be in a business that does not inspire you. Inspiration does not mean profitability. You actually want to be in a business that is boring, that is ugly, that is repellent, that is hard, that stresses you out, because that's what business businesses long term. So if you're super excited and super inspired and super motivated, you're going to burn through your inspiration, your excitement, and your motivation. I promise you. I guarantee it. It doesn't matter what the business is. And the best you'll ever be is how you function when you're no longer inspired, excited, or motivated. So just put yourself in a position right now of being uninspired, unexcited, and unmotivated. And then figure out, oh, I'm actually a pretty damn good entrepreneur when I'm in this frame. And then when you actually do experience bouts of excitement or motivation or inspiration, you're that much better. But the question I have for you is, can you survive sans inspiration, excitement, and motivation? Can you survive sans seed capital and investment? And if you can, you'll be a great entrepreneur. And if you can't, go get a job. And that's not combative, by the way. There's nothing wrong with jobs. I think most people need jobs. I think most people should have jobs. 90% of the world is built for that framework. For the 10% of us that want to be entrepreneurs, you have to play according to the rules that the organic ecosystem offers. And when you have seed capital, that's not organic, obviously, because at no point in your business is somebody else going to show up and be like, hey, here's a little bit more money. Keep going, kid, right? So start organically, start from the ground up. And if you disagree, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.